And you're welcome back to today's episode of Relationships with Adenike. We've been having a very interesting conversation with Pastor Taiwo Odukoya of the Fountain of Life Bible Church. And in the earlier segment, I really enjoyed some of the key points that, you raised. It was quite an eye-opener, and I loved your perspective. And one of the things I was thinking about during the break was that, when we think about it, you said so many things that had to do with what needed to happen when the church was growing. But we do know that your ministry, Pastor Bimbo's ministry, Fountain of Life Bible Church, became a global ministry because it now had international outreach outside of even the country. So as that ministry grew, as it became international, as the travel increased, was there a need to change the structure of your marriage or the roles? There's a lot of cultural expectations of what a husband and what a wife should be and all of that. How did your marriage structure have to align to give you the ability to do all of that travel and work you were doing?
Yes, now that you talked about our culture, as it were, about culture and Christianity, usually there's a conflict there. But like I said earlier, we found ourselves and we became friends. And in the light of the scriptures, we just grew into what we did.
Yes.
And got married, started having children. One of the things I think say in the first segment was, I remember when the children would go to school and they have to close from school, it will be either one of us to go pick them, and as of course we grew in ministry, we had leaders, we had assistants, somebody that picked them for us and brought them to church, so they were with us. And where there were need for serious counseling, we made room for that. And when there was need for them to go home, she would either go home with them. And when, of course, we didn't have any major services, I would leave to go. So we really didn't miss out on anything, as it were. We flowed as one, as it were. Okay, now back to your question. Now the ministry began to grow and began to have branches, and of course our ministry began to grow. We began to go beyond the national boundaries, and of course travels came in.
Yes.
So what I just said, again, we just grew into that. We just escalated the same way we were handling things locally to international, to the international level. So what happened? When she had to travel, she traveled, howbeit 3 days, 4 days, 4 days a week. And Pastor, where are you? Where were you rather? I was at home with the children. They went to school as normal. And then of course, as much as we could, she would like to know what was happening to the children. They would talk. And we didn't really feel the pinch, as it were.
Yes.
Coming back from trips, you would have missed that tremendously. So you want to be part of the crew to welcome her at the airport. And she'll be looking forward to coming back home. So we were able to do that, and the ministry just grew and grew and grew. And the children grew up enjoying the ministry. In fact, they thought it was part of life.
Right, because that was all they ever knew.
Yeah.
So I like what you just said. So basically, the foundation is what's important.
Yes.
You've taken us to the foundation several times, how you started, the friendship in the marriage, the doing life together, and building a structure that always involved the children.
Yes.
So as ministry grew, you kept that and you just kept building on it.
That's
so you didn't have to a staggering situation.
You just escalate what you already have.
Right, yes, you just built up on it. I really like that. So when I now think back and see all of this, it looked like life was perfect. Things were going as planned, Pastor Bim was traveling, the ministry was growing, the children are happy. But we all know that life happened.
Yes.
And it happened to you, Pastor Taiwo, in a very big way. Literally what I would call time stood still for you.
Yes.
Can you just talk us through that moment?
Yes. Let me just quickly say this before I answer that question. Yes, everything looked fine and seemed perfect, but that's not to say that we didn't have our differences.
I like that.
We didn't have our
Thank
challenges.
You. Yes, thank you.
Come on, we did.
Yes.
Did we agree on everything all together? Oh, no. Sometimes we had to talk each other into agreeing or coming to a point. You know what I mean by that.
Yes, of course. had very interesting, heightened conversations.
Thank you. Heated romance.
Heated romance, I like that.
So they did happen, but those were the things that actually strengthened the relationship. You disagree to agree.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So coming to the question you asked, yes. Now I know you're talking about the passing away of Pastor Bimbo.
That's right.
It was all of a sudden. It was a shock. It was never anticipated, but it happened. So how did it affect me? Drastically. Yes. Yes, shocked. disappointed, to some extent.
Yes.
Hurt, oh, wow, yes, deeply hurt. So how did you continue from there?
Yeah.
Again, I would say the grace of God just worked out for me. The Bible says where Paul was asking about the thorns in his flesh, and he was seeking God's intervention, and the only answer he got was, my grace is sufficient for you. And then he went on to say something that was Jesus talking directly to him. He said, the truth is this, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. Then Paul switched on to say, I think I would rather enjoy my weakness than to always see the perfection of your strength, as it were. I guess that was what happened to me.
Right.
I remember, overwhelmed with the situation.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to pay the tribute. Everybody would come in to say, to console me, and the whole place would be packed. And of course, occasionally I would have to just take excuse, walk upstairs, walk around. You know what I was doing then? I would walk through the rooms, walk through the living room upstairs, and initially I would say, why? But God answered me early enough. Said, no, you won't get an answer to that. No. So it reduced to, but I loved my wife.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Then I'll come back again. In the night, I'll praise the floor. But I loved my wife.
You're having those moments with God, so wrestling with Him.
Yes, but God made one thing clear to me, and this is what He said. He said, how did you get to where you were in the first place? Everybody's talking about your ministry, and they sing the grace, my grace on your life. How did you get here? Then I realized that it wasn't anything I did.
Right.
And He said something. He said, now, why don't you just continue the journey? So the question then was, how do I continue the journey without her?
Yeah.
Then his answer was, how were you making the journey before she came in? How was she making the journey before you came into her life? Continue the journey. And I tried to do that, asking grace from Him. And that's what I'm still doing.
Wow. So let's go back to that journey of being single.
Yes.
Married.
Yes.
Single.
Yes.
How did you pastor Fountain of Life as a single pastor in those years? What were your new struggles? What were your new challenges? We're talking about behind the pulpit now.
Yes.
How did you now rise up? After that season, I'm sure you went through and still must have gone through. How did you encourage people and then go back home and have to deal with issues? But just even your life now as a single parent and a single pastor.
Yes. Okay, you mean my life at the transition?
At the transition period.
Initially, let me try and articulate the way I felt.
Yeah.
Whilst we were waiting for the burial of the remains, some guy approached me, one of my staff approached me and said, oh, the deadline for the school fees is next week. Of course, we had two of them abroad.
Yes.
So I said, oh, you know what? Remind me tomorrow morning. Immediately I said that, then it dawned on me that, wait a minute. Between now and tomorrow morning, it's not like it used to be.
Right.
And what did I feel? I felt like someone walking on two canes. Used to that, but one cane was no more there. So the moment I said that, and what I felt was like, I tripped on one side. I said, oh, okay, yeah. All the same, remind me tomorrow morning. So that means that I had to adjust my mindset and change the processes of, how things should be done. So I felt that, and that actually translated to everything I did at the time, whether with the children, my personal life, the ministry. So how did I get by? I continued to trust God and taking a day at a time, and somehow God was so faithful. I got by. Now, personal issues, I missed that dearly, but God healed me quickly.
Right.
And He will always remind me that life is beyond living for yourself. Now you are hurting. The people are hurting. Those who came to know God through you and her are still looking at you to see, is this what it's all about? So you've got to provide leadership. So at that point, I knew I had to. For example, I'll tell you this. The remains were buried on a Wednesday Yeah, Wednesday. The Sunday was Christmas Day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, got home on a Thursday, where on an average, since her death, we were receiving close to 1,000 guests a day. After the interment, that Wednesday night, they dropped to about a few hundred. By Thursday morning, or for the first time, I could sit alone with the children and my siblings. Nobody else was there. It was so certain.
Yes.
Now, the education and counseling I received in the spirit, that is direct from God, helped. Because really, it didn't weigh me down. It's like, wow, okay. So now you're back to reality.
Yes.
You've got to come on, hold yourself together.
Yes.
And provide leadership for the children and for them. So what happened that Thursday? I looked at my brother was there. Said, I'm going for showers. So what? I said, yeah. What am I doing? Sitting down. So we jumped to the car. 2 of us drove to church. When I got there, showers that were packed thousands. I doubt if we had 50. So the moment I came in, by the time I got on the stage, by the time I was saying the grace, the church was packed. People were calling themselves.
People were calling that he's out. Because everybody thought we were still in a quiet morning mood. Yeah. But when you got up, everybody then got up. Power of leadership.
Then I went back home.
Yes.
Yeah. The pains, they were still there, but they were getting better by the second.
Yes.
Kind of assurance building up that, look, she's fine. You're fine. Then Sunday morning, oh my goodness, we've never had such a crowd in Fountain.
Wow.
People stood in the sun on both sides of the road.
Wow.
And I got up to preach. Don't ask me when I preached, but I knew how I ended. How I ended was this. I said, it's amazing that we're having an unusual Christmas service without bimbo. But it's amazing to you. She too will be like, man, this is amazing. This is my first Christmas. Right before my master, the whole church went, ooh. Then I said, now you guys go have a Merry Christmas. Then we share the grace. Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And everybody was going down. We had Merry Christmas. People left smiling and very happy. And then we went back home. I got home and I was wondering, how did you get to do that? It wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. God intervened.
Yes.
And so how was that Christmas for you, Pastor Taiwo? It was wonderful. I felt good. And the children were happy.
Excellent. That's so beautiful. I'll just take a quick break. What a touching. I think I need a moment. We'll be right back.